We do know this. If we're going to impact the world, there's no way we can impact it ourselves, but together we can. And I believe that's what The Chosen is yes, it's a TV show, but it's much more than a TV show. It's a movement to discover Jesus. And if there's ever a time in the world that we need Jesus, it's today. When I started my career, it was a very monumental moment, and I think it's a moment that we all face. I was actually working for a company. I had my degree in marketing and advertising, and I felt like I was in a box. I felt like I was in the third grade again. And I remember calling up to my wife, and we just gave birth to our first child, and I told her I got to quit. And she's like, "Oh no, we can't go down this path." And I'm like, "Well, I got to quit." "Well, you have great health insurance and, it's stability." And I'm like, "I just can't do this." This is where I love my wife. She goes, "But I will support you as long as you don't start your own business." I'm like, "Sold." Okay. So we actually went out, and I had a lot of job offers, but I love where I live. I wanted my kids to have their best friends be their cousins. And it ultimately was down that I had great job offers, but it made us move out of the area. But my wife and we discussed it, and this is where I love my wife so much. She goes, if it's what's meant to be, it's, then I'll support it 100%. So what did we do? We knelt right by our bed, offered a prayer, and we felt like this is what I was supposed to do. It felt that what we needed to do. And she has never complained once, and ups and downs and sideways. And so it took us on a journey of kind of figuring things out. And this is right at the beginning of the internet. I was building up websites back in 1999, and that was basically my business. And I discovered in 2005 YouTube for the first time. And that's one of those moments of clarity that I got, that I knew it was going to be the next big thing. There's so many people here on earth that have light. And that form might come through art, that might come through, a skill set. I trying to gravitate to the people that have light. And then my job of what God put me on earth was to amplify that light. And I use the gifts and talents that God's given me to use marketing and different strategies and thinking outside the box, because I don't believe anything is impossible. I just think we just haven't figured it out yet. We pretty much have been able to generate 64 billion video views on YouTube, another 34 billion on Facebook. So working with some of the biggest brands and creators on the planet, I can identify what's going to work. I'm an early adopter, and I can see that this is going to connect with culture, because I'm a student of history, I'm a student of people. And so for me, I'm always looking, how is that going to impact? Basically, I put on a conference every year where all these business people and YouTubers come in to really focus in on the business side and the data side of YouTube. And I get this random text from a guy that I worked with on Squatty Potty Pooping Unicorn. It's an ad promoting the Squatty Potty. If you haven't seen it, I apologize. If you've seen it, I apologize. But it was the largest grossing ad. We did $144 million in attributable sales back to one video ad. And I was the executive producer, and Jeffrey Harmon was the executive producer on it. So he texted me, "Hey, is my ticket still good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but your ticket's still good." So he flew into LA, and he was kind of coming to hunt me down. And he says, "Derral, you got to see this video." I'm like, I'm in the middle of a conference. Like, what are you doing here? Like, I thought you were just coming, as an attendee. He says, "No, I needed to show you a video." I'm like, "That's why God invented email. Like, why didn't you just email it to me?" And he goes, "No, you have to see this." And I says, "Look, I'm busy. I got thousands of people here, and I got fires to put out." And I started to walk away, and I'm like, wait, he just traveled. He flew hours to come show me a video. The least that I can do for my friend and someone that I partner with on projects is to give them a little bit of time. And so I says, "Okay, let me find a room." I found a room, and that was the first moment that I saw the short film Dallas made for his church. It's called The Shepherd. It's basically about the nativity, but from a different perspective, the perspective of the shepherd and his trials of what went through. And I remember sitting in this small room around a Chromebook, and the screen was no bigger than 8 inches. We're like just kind of going in there, and I'm like, this is low budget. I made that call because I produce a lot of content, but it connects, it hits. And I'm like, this is amazing, good stuff. And he's like, yeah, this guy, I think we're gonna do a TV series, on this, and we're trying to convince him to do a TV show and get it crowdfunded. And we went through a little bit further, and there's a moment where I kind of break down. Is like, I don't like to see people bullied. And I'm the quickest to stand up for people being bullied. I go right into it. And I think it's just the defensive nature of being one of 10 kids. We're all together. You can't touch my brother type stuff. And there's a moment where the shepherd was on his journey of discovering the Messiah. He just wanted to learn about this Messiah. Now, shepherds in first century were the lowest class of citizen that you could be. Everyone looked down upon them. They were spit upon and treated very poorly. And he went into the synagogue, and the people in the synagogue saw him and kicked him out. Says, "You don't belong here." And it was that moment of seeing that, like someone that just wanted to learn, and they were kicked out because of the class of citizen they were. And that triggered me. I'm like, okay, I'll go fight for him, whatever. But what happened next, and this scene is so iconic for me. Even to this day, it gives me motivation to endure the difficult times that we have. But he was interrupted and says, "Hey, do you know where the well is? Because my wife is thirsty." And I'm like looking. I'm like, okay, that must be Mary because she's really pregnant on sitting on the donkey. And he says, "Yeah, there's a well over on the other side of the town." But then he reached down and says, "But you can have my water." And so what I loved about that was he didn't even know who he was working with. He didn't even know where he was at. And he gave water to someone that was about to give to birth of the King of Kings and the Lord of Hosts. And she took the water. And that water was so symbolic to me, and symbolic to the mission that this child that was going to be born was going to be the everlasting water. And I just broke down. And I mean, even to this day, every time I think about it, it just hits me right here. And I'm like, I want to be a part of this. And right then and there, you get interrupted. "Derral, we need you to come fix this." I get up to go and I says, "Jeffrey, I don't care what it is. I want to be a part of this. If I have to hold the light, I will hold the light. And I don't care." He says, "Good. That's what I was hoping you're going to say. You're going to meet with Dallas next week." And a couple days later, I met with Dallas Jenkins. And immediately I knew there was something great. And he was at a point in life that I look for, where someone was doing it for a cause instead of doing it for riches or for fame. And he was broken and surrendered. And we were able to hit it off in the shortest time that two people could hit it off. And I realized that I was put on earth to amplify light. And Dallas had a story to tell. He had something that he's able to do. And I knew what I could bring to the table would help amplify what he was able to do. And that's when we actually formed the company. Just right then and there, we shook hands and said, "Let's do this." And we had zero money in the bank, zero followers on Facebook, but you had two people that are cause-driven people that would love to see like impact made, and a beautiful vision that Dallas had for the show. And I knew if he could do that on low budget, what could he do with millions of dollars producing something? And I could just picture it, and I would just get, just jazzed, ready to go. And then it was like, okay, we got to raise the money. We have to raise it. And it was tough. It was a tough journey. But here you had myself and the Harmon brothers. I have to include them in this. We're very determined people, and sometimes we rub each other wrong. But God knew that. He needed people that was resilient and wasn't going to bend and find different ways. And that led to amplifying Dallas's message and the authentic message of his story and what he wanted to do. And it connected with people. And that's when God came in and gave us the miracle of breaking the all-time crowdfunding record in film and television. We were able to raise $10 million from 19,000 people to fund the first season, to get it produced. And when I watched The Chosen, season one, I think of those 19,000 people that had trust in us, and getting behind something they didn't even see. And it gave me hope. And I knew that as this project, if we could stay true to the story, stay true to our main points of authenticity that we started in the beginning, that it would spread. Because 2 views became 4, 4 views become 8, 8 views become 16, and it just started to multiply. And it was moments of surrendering. And we always joke internally that we're on the manna marketing program, because all we get is enough manna for the day. If we get a little bit more, a little bit less, it always goes rotten. You know what I'm saying? We just try to stash some to the side, but we only get what we get at the time that we need it. And that's the way the project's been. This last year was very devastating for the world, and there's a lot that was going on, and it's disrupted families disconnected because of the pandemic and so on. And for us, we made a decision that early on that Dallas felt led that we should just give it away for free, and just for a week, and just to give it away for free. And when that happened, we found that God wanted us to do. Because if we're going to get it to 1 billion people, if we're going to be in every nation, we first have to put it on a device that can. So we had the app, of course, but we needed it to self-fund, because the only way that you can actually get 7 seasons produced is having money come in. How in the world, if you're going to give it away for free, is that going to happen? Well, when we did that first live stream, we had literally quadruple the amount of money that was ever raised come in a day. And the next one, we had quintuple, and it went up to 8x of what we were doing. And we found that that's the path that we were supposed to go on. And so it will always be free until Jesus comes, and there will always be an opportunity to contribute. We'll find ways to do it, whether it's merch or whatever, we'll figure out a way to have it contribute. But for us, it's getting it out to 1 billion people. It's getting it so that 1 billion people can experience an authentic Jesus and have that transformational moment, just like what I had when I watched The Shepherd for the first time. The children of Israel were pinned. Here you had the strongest army in the world at the time was the army of Egypt, coming on them, ready to slaughter them, and they were right at the Red Sea. And that's where Moses turned to his advisors. What do we do? And he turned to the ultimate advisor, which is the person that knows everything. And he surrendered. He says, I can't do this. Like, they're going to come destroy us. What would you have us do? And that was the moment that God was able to display his power and told him exactly what to say and exactly what to do. And that's when the Red Sea parted, and they were able to go forth on dry ground. And it basically fell upon his enemies. And so that Red Sea moment is something that we have in The Chosen. We come up to the point where we can't go any further, and we have to surrender ourselves and see, is there a different path, a way to do this? And that's when God swoops in with someone or something to help us get through that Red Sea. And the reason why I bring that up is because I have worked on some of the biggest campaigns in the world, and I've never experienced the opposition as this project. It's been 3.5 years of pure torture, 3.5 years of crawling on glass. It's not easy. But because of what my parents have taught me, how hard of a worker my dad is, and how he valued, hey, it's more important to make an impact for something that is bigger than us. It gave me the determination of sticking to it. And here you have men and women surrounded by the project that see the project for what it is. It's a project to impact the world in so many different ways, to gather people to find and discover an authentic Jesus. It's beautiful, but it doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it easy. It's very difficult. And then two, what it's doing, it's taking people from different faith backgrounds and finding something that they can actually agree upon. And that has complications too. And we're starting to grow people that are supporting us. that are right there with us, our chosen army. And they're there giving us, praying for us, and giving us things that we need at times. And we do know this. If we're going to impact the world, there's no way we can impact it ourselves, but together we can. And I believe that's what The Chosen is yes, it's a TV show, but it's much more than a TV show. It's a movement to discover Jesus. And if there's ever a time in the world that we need Jesus, it's today.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.